The 8th-ranked Ole Miss Rebels traveled to Gaylord Family Oklahoma Memorial Stadium to take on the 13th-ranked Oklahoma Sooners. These two teams are both 6-1. This game will be 12 o'clock Eastern Time on ABC. It's actually an 11 o'clock Central Time kick, which I've always wondered, does the 11 o'clock time, maybe this is a question for Big Ten fans because a lot of their big games are played at noon in some cases, does the 11 o'clock start actually favor the road team in a weird way, just because the home crowd isn't quite where they need to be from a consumption standpoint or from an energy standpoint? Maybe it's an early morning. I have no idea. I've always wondered that, and I'm just be curious because it's not often that you see a top 13 matchup in the SEC in the noon window and at 11 o'clock Central Time. Fascinating study here between two very contrasting philosophies. You have the offensive ingenuity of Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weis Jr., his offensive coordinator, against the unbelievable defensive acumen of Oklahoma's Brent Venables. So you have one side, super dynamic, high-scoring offense. Other side, very suffocating, statistically dominant defense that's one of the best in the country, okay? The Ole Miss Rebels, under Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weis, they're going to run that high-octane spread offense attack, statistically one of the more productive units in all of college football. And then they're going against a defense that is unbelievable, right? So you look at everything, these two teams very different. One team prides themselves with absolutely defending every single snap as if it has a life of its own. The other wants to pour points on you and pour points on you in a very big way. You look at just how things are with Oklahoma's offense on the other side. They're in the 70s in scoring offense, 74th in total offense. So they're kind of in the middle of the pack. But Oklahoma's offense, it also feels like they're kind of poised for a possible breakthrough if a few pieces can come together. Now, you can make a case it's one of the best quarterback matchups of the entire weekend that pits Trinidad Chambliss of Ole Miss, over 1,500 yards, 8 touchdowns against just 1 interception. He's also a huge threat with his legs. He got 5 scores on the ground and 320 yards against John Mateer for Oklahoma, who's been pretty good with the exception of one game in which he just had some issues with ball security and accuracy. That was against Texas. So for the most part, man, John Mateer has been as advertised, but maybe the passing attack and maybe the pieces around him haven't been what we thought they were going to be going into the season. He's a great player and still can carry his team to victory week in and week out. Question number 1, how will Oklahoma handle Ole Miss's tempo? Now, this is a big part of the strategic battle here, right? We know what Brent Venables' defensive system is all about. They're built to attack. They want to blitz. They want to be aggressive. And that aggressiveness, it requires a lot of communication and execution. And Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weis Jr., they basically force you with their fast-paced no-huddle attack to occasionally get a little bit more vanilla. And they might not let you substitute personnel, and they might disrupt the ability to make pre-snap adjustments and have the perfect defensive call. So how will they handle that? And will Trinidad Chambliss and his legs potentially neutralize some of the aggressiveness that Brent Venables wants to play with? So that kind of creates a bit of a tactical dilemma. Will Oklahoma maintain that aggressive, complex approach and risk the possibility of making a mistake or being caught out of position? Or do they simplify their approach and maybe just do a little bit kind of a less is more type of approach in a game like this? So however this battle goes and how Oklahoma adjusted the tempo will be a fascinating dynamic to follow. Question 2, can Trinidad Chambliss counter Oklahoma's aggressiveness? Now, he's been a model of efficiency for the Rebels. Transfer from Ferris State has shown great command for the offense. He's also shown the ability to protect the football, and you got to do that in the SEC. And a key component of Lane Kiffin's offense is just distributing the ball, getting the ball out, being a distributor, being opportunistic with your legs, but make quick decisions, have good vision, both pre-snap and post-snap, and spread the ball around to a proven group of weapons that have a bunch of explosive tendencies. 8 different guys caught passes in the game against Georgia. But this will be, without question, Trinidad Chambliss' toughest test. Brent Venables' defense is so hard to play against. They do such a great job. I love watching it. I mean, they are really fluid in their alignments. They confuse protection schemes. They create a lot of negative plays. And if they just wanted to just play standard base coverage, they can still get home. They got 28 sacks this year. R. Mason Thomas, one of the best edge defenders in the country. So can Trinidad Chambliss maintain his poise when facing the level of sustained pressure that he's probably going to face in this game? And his performance in the fourth quarter against Georgia last week was not what you want. It's kind of a cautionary tale and a possible blueprint for Oklahoma to potentially apply, because that was the first time really in his tenure as the starter where he's looked a little bit human. Question number 3, can Oklahoma stop the run against Kejuan Lacey? Look, Ole Miss's rushing attack is led by Kejuan Lacey. He's a great player. He's got 10 touchdowns already. And Lane Kiffin does a great job of creating favorable down and distance situations, which open up the opportunities to be aggressive through the air. But it's really all about the run game. We talk so much about the passing attack and the verticals and the explosives and the deception, but it's really the run game. Without the run game, it's hard for the Ole Miss offense to be at its very best. And they're going against a defense in the Sooners that are top 5 against the run. They led less than 100 yards a game, under 81 yards a game, to be honest. It's a disciplined front. They're physical and they're deep as well. So the tempo, if they can substitute, won't be a huge factor. Question number 4, how will Oklahoma's offensive line hold up? Now, the state of Oklahoma's offensive line has been an issue. I mean, that's been the biggest problem, I think, throughout the last 2 seasons. And it's been a bit of a weakness at times. Last year was problematic. They've had a couple injuries. So their health, the lack of depth, it's a legitimate liability against the Ole Miss defensive front that I think is the strength of their defense. I think they're gettable in the back 7. I do think they have some guys up front that can take over the game. So they're not close to what they were last year, but last year's defense, they had, 10 sacks, I think, against this Oklahoma team, 9 sacks against this Oklahoma team last year. So they're not the same. Like I said, they're not the same. They still have individual game records, though, up front along that defensive line. Question 5, can Ole Miss sustain drives by converting third downs? They are so good on third down. That's big for them to try to get you off your heels, make sure you continue to move the chains. Over 51% conversion. That's top 15. They're unbelievable, though, for Oklahoma's defense. They're unbelievable on third down. They allow less than a quarter of the conversion attempts against them. It's a strength-on-strength clash, and third downs could be a crucial barometer to who wins the game. And then question 6, who will win the turnover battle? This is Oklahoma's most significant vulnerability outside of their offensive line right now. They are -5 in the turnover margin. That is 116th in the FBS. They've turned it over 9 times. And they forced just 4 all year, which is a little bit surprising, especially when you take into account how aggressive and how well coached this defense is. Now, Oklahoma quarterback John Mateer, he does have a ton of talent, but he has thrown some picks. They come in bunches, and they did against Texas. So he's got to be smart with the football, because if for whatever reason he turns it over again, it's going to allow a very potent offense to create short fields and potentially allow some of the tempo to get away from him. I will not pick this game. I will be on the call for what I think is maybe the game of the weekend. Alongside Sean McDonough and Molly McGrath, we'll see you at noon Eastern on ABC.